Okay guys, since we are not having a meeting on Monday the 18th, I thought I would go ahead and just kind of recap a little bit of sections 1.1, 1.2, and 2.1. You should have already watched the media assignments and attempted to complete those problems, but I just wanted to touch on some of the important things. This is in no way going to be all of the notes, but it will be just a quick recap of those notes. So the Cartesian coordinate plane, we have our x-axis and our y-axis, and we can graph ordered pairs. So if I wanted to ask you what is the graph of the ordered pair A right here, A is the ordered pair 2, 3. The x coordinate is 2 and the y coordinate is 3 because I went to the right 2 and up 3 to get point A. You also need to make sure you are familiar with the quadrants. They start in the top right-hand corner and we call them quadrants 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now let's say I have this ordered pair right here and I call it B. If I ask you the coordinates for B, that would be -2, 0. And if I ask you what quadrant it's actually not in a quadrant. It is on the x-axis. Okay, so it is not in a quadrant, it is on the x-axis. So we don't name a quadrant there. It can't be in two quadrants. It is actually on the axis. Another important piece of information you were given was about just a linear equation in the form ax plus by equals c. And then later on in section 1, it talked about slope. So let's just mention slope a little bit. Slope is the steepness of a line. We use the letter M to represent slope. And typically we call it rise over run. Now they do use some notation where you have this little triangle. That little triangle means the change in y, and the little triangle on the bottom would mean the change in x. So we take our y values and we subtract them, and we take our x values and subtract them. That's what it means by change. We subtract them. So for given two ordered pairs, we would use this formula. So if I ask you to find the slope of a line that goes through the two ordered pairs that I have above, A and B, slope of a line through A and B. And we'll use the A and B that are listed above. Let's find that. So here's A and B, and let's say we have a line that passes through A and B, and I want to know what is the slope of that line. So my slope, I'm going to write my two ordered pairs right here just so that we can see them a little closer to where I'm working. Now the first thing that I like to do, and it's helpful for a lot of people, you don't necessarily have to, I go ahead and name my ordered pairs. Like this first ordered pair A, I'm going to call it X1 and Y1. And I'm going to call this ordered pair B X2 and Y2. If you call this X2, then Y2 goes with it. All right, so they have to have the same little subscript down there. All right, so now I'm ready to use my little slope formula. So my y2 is 0, minus my y1 is 3, divided by my x2 is -2, minus my x1 is +2. And now I'll actually do the arithmetic. 0 minus 3 is -3. -2 minus 2 is -4. Now when you get a problem like this, you do need to simplify. Negative divided by negative is +3/4. So our slope here is +3/4. Sometimes our slope could be negative, and so they also said something about positive slope, negative slope. They even mentioned to you zero slope and an undefined slope. So let's briefly talk about those things for just a minute. A positive slope, a negative slope, if we have what's called no slope, let's don't say that word. It does discourage us using that word. Let's use the word zero slope and then undefined. So these are our options for what kinds of slopes we could have. If we have a positive slope, then that means that as we read our line left to right with our eyes, if we look left to right, our line is going to rise left to right. It's going to go up. So a positive slope always rises left to right. If we have a negative slope, again, we read graphs left to right, just like we read words. When you read a negative slope left to right, it falls. So this would be an example of a negative slope. All right, a zero slope means exactly what it says. It does not slope at all. It has zero slope. That would be a horizontal line. Okay, that is a horizontal line. Every time the slope, we said the slope, it says up here the word zero, that is a number. Slope is 0. If our slope is undefined, well, that would be a vertical line. All right, that would be a vertical line. There's no work to show with that. So our slope here is definitely the word undefined. There's no number, it's undefined. But every time you have an undefined slope, it is a vertical line. Every time you have a slope of 0, it is a horizontal line. So those are important things that they, hopefully in the homework you notice that they mention. All right, so we have that first form of our equation, ax plus by equals c, and then they go through slope-intercept form of a line. And so that equation is y equals mx plus b. M is our slope, and b is our y-intercept. That's where the line crosses the y-axis. So if I have a line that has a slope of -2 and it has a y-intercept of 6, then the equation of that line would be y equals -2x plus 6. We put the slope where m is, put the y-intercept where b is. And so that would be the equation of our line. Now, unfortunately, they don't usually give us that information, so it's not always that easy. So in your homework, they gave you problems that said something like, what if the x-intercept is -2 and the y-intercept is 5? And it said, write an equation of this line. Okay. Now, I do believe that in my math lab, they were pretty specific about telling you they want it in slope-intercept form or some other form, whichever the direction said. In this one, we're going to do slope-intercept. So the first thing I do is I go, okay, slope-intercept is this equation. That means I have to know the slope and the y-intercept. Well, the good news is I do know the y-intercept. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in. Y equals mx plus 5. I know that goes there. Now, in my equation, there's no place for this x-intercept. All right? So what I've got to do is I got to find the slope, because that's the only other thing I have to plug into this formula. So what we're going to do up here is this x-intercept, that is an ordered pair, -2, 0. This y-intercept is an ordered pair, 0, 5. Now, if you're like, how did you come up with that? Let's think about it for a second. X-intercept is -2, so that would be right there. Y-intercept is 5, so that would be up there. So I just listed the ordered pair. So -2, 0, and 0, 5. All right, so if I said let's find that slope, now we're going to use that little slope formula. I like to name them x1, y1, x2, and y2. And then I'm ready to plug them into the formula. So 0 minus 5 and negative 2 minus 0. Y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. That gives me negative 5 over negative 2. Again, negative divided by negative is a positive 5 over 2. So there's my slope. So now I go back over here in my equation. Y is equal to 5 over 2 x plus 5. Now, I also know that in the directions on your homework, sometimes they weren't wanting fractions. So we're going to do one of those like that, but we're going to do that in the next problem. Actually, we'll do that a little bit later. Okay, let's keep going. They also talked about parallel and perpendicular lines. They talked about point slope form. Let's do that first. Hopefully you've already taken all the notes on this information. All right, so point slope form of a line would be y minus y1 is equal to the slope times x minus x1. And again, m represents our slope. And that ordered pair x1, y1, that is a point on the line. And so the numbers that you're going to plug something in for are y1, m, and x1. This regular y that doesn't have a subscript and this x that doesn't have a subscript stay in the equation. Okay, so let's say that I have a line that goes through two ordered pairs. Let's say it goes through the ordered pair 2, 9 and 5, 3. And I want us to find an equation of this line. And I want us to put our answer in slope-intercept form, which is not the form that I have sitting right here. That's the last one that we did. All right, but here's how we're going to use this point slope form. Remember that slope-intercept form, I have to know the slope and the y-intercept. Well, I don't know either one of those this time. I do need to know the slope and the y-intercept. I don't know either one. All I know is two ordered pairs. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our ordered pairs. I'm going to go ahead and label them x1, y1, x2, y2, and I'm going to find the slope. All right, so 3 minus 9 and 5 minus 2. So negative 6 over 3. You must simplify. We get negative 2. So we now have our slope. I still don't know my y-intercept. So now I'm going to use this point slope formula. All right, so y minus, I've already labeled my ordered pairs. So here's my x1, y1. Now if you labeled the other one x1, y1, it's still going to work. So I've got y minus 9 is equal to, we put our slope where m is, x minus x1. So this is point slope form, so we're not finished. That is not how they want our answer. So I'm going to distribute that negative 2. And then I'm going to add 9 to both sides because I want to get that y all by itself. So now this is in slope-intercept form. Y is equal to negative 2x plus 13. All right. Two other things that I want us to talk about are vertical lines and horizontal lines. We already mentioned them a little bit. So let's go back just a second. A horizontal line, I told you it always has a slope of 0. And so if I look at a graph, any horizontal line, okay, there's one. It's got a slope of 0. right? And if I want to know the equation of this horizontal line, all right, its equation is y is equal to some value k, and k is just some number. All right, in fact, it's not just any number, it is the y-intercept, okay, because it crosses the y-axis at -3, so that's the k value we're going to use. So the equation of our line is y equals -3. You can't just say -3, you can't list an ordered pair, it has to be y equals -3 for this particular line. If we have a vertical line, we know that our slope is undefined. All right. And the equation for every vertical line is x equals some number k. Okay, well, let's look at a vertical line real quick. All right, so let's say we have this vertical line. Well, this time our k value is the x-intercept, because this vertical line crosses our x-axis, and it crosses it at 1. So the equation of this vertical line is x is equal to 1. Okay, then they went over some parallel and perpendicular lines. Instead of going over all the rules, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an example. I'm going to do one that talks about perpendicular. So let's find the equation of a line, or of the line, through the order pair 3, 2, and perpendicular to the line 2x plus 3y is equal to 4. Now, a couple of things. My Math Lab, when it wanted you to type your answer, it told you a few things. It would tell you it wanted it in this form, ax plus by equals c, and it would say it wanted a, b, and c as integers. And it also said they wanted a greater than or equal to 0. They want the a value positive. So even if you knew how to work this problem, you really had to understand what these directions were asking for how to type in your answer. So let's get started. Our line has to be through the order pair 3, 2 and perpendicular to this line. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this line right here, and I am going to solve for y so that I can find the slope. Okay, so let's go ahead and solve that for y. So 2x plus 3y equals 4. I'm going to start by subtracting 2x, and I am going to put it in front of the 4, so it's in the correct form. And then everything gets divided by that 3. So y is -2/3 x plus 4/3. So all I did that for was to help me find its slope. Well, the slope of this line is -2/3. We want a line to be perpendicular to 2/3. All right, we want our line to be perpendicular to 2/3. So our line is going to have a slope that is positive 3/2, the negative reciprocal. You flip it and change the sign. So now we know the slope of our line, and we know our line goes through this ordered pair, which I could call x1 and y1. Now I'm going to use point slope formula to write my equation. So y minus 2 equals the slope times x minus 3. I'm going to you can right here get rid of the fraction, or you can distribute and then get rid of the fraction, whichever you prefer. I'm going to go ahead and distribute. I get 3 over 2 times x minus, when you distribute here, I'm going to put a 1 up under. So I have 3 times 3 is 9, and 2 times 1 is 2. Okay, now it does tell us that it wants a, b, and c to be integers, which means they can't be fractions. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to take the entire equation, everything, and I am going to multiply by the least common denominator. In this case is a 2. So everything is going to get multiplied by 2. So y times 2 would be 2y. Negative 2 times 2 would be negative 4. Negative 3 over 2 times 2, think about it like this. Think about it as 2 over 1. That would give me 6 over 2, which is 3. Keep the x. And 9 over 2 times 2 over 1 would be 18 over 2, which is 9. Okay. Now, I don't have fractions, so that's good. But I have to have it in this form. That's what my directions said. ax plus by is equal to c. And they also want a to be positive. Okay, this a value right here has to be positive. That a value has to be positive. So here's the a, that's the thing in front of x. It's got to be positive, so I can't move it over there. It's got to stay where it is so that it can stay positive. So I am going to move the 2y over here. Okay, I'm going to do it one step at a time just so we can see it happen. I still have this minus 9 over there, which does not belong. So the next thing I'm going to do is add that 9 to the other side. So I end up with positive 5 is 3x minus 2y. Now it is in this form. 3x minus 2y is equal to 5. Notice that my a, b, and c are all integers, and that my a value is bigger than 0. So this would be our solution. I know that was a long problem. All right, and then they went through some things about graphing and finding x and y intercept. And so if you have some questions about those, you're welcome to email me and ask. I will do a separate video that talks about 2-1 and 2-2. So if you want to go ahead and see if you've got any other questions about 1-1, that's all I'm going to cover on this video. And I will do another one that covers sections 1, 2, and 2-1.